Hello. I hope whoever is watching this video is doing wonderfully. So today, well, a few days ago, I got the random idea to talk about some of the shows. Well, I decided to put it down to the three main ones, the three main shows that mean a lot to me, and basically explain why. Now, I have no idea where these ideas come from, but they just come into my brain, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I haven't got anything to do, so I'll make a video of them. This will probably seem like the bizarrest mix of shows you ever seen, but yeah, here we go. I'll get on with it. Now, the first show, by the way, apologies if I ramble a bit. I try my best to be straightforward and to the point, but I think I'm getting better with this stuff, but I'll try my best not to ramble like I'm doing now, but apologies if I do. Now, the first show that means a lot to me, as you've probably seen from my channel, would be Doctor Who. And, well, it's a show I've always liked from my, even as I'm not even a kid, like a toddler, I still remember seeing the show and I loved it then. And it's not just, well, I've always liked stuff with sci-fi in and things like that, but it's not just because of that, it's because, well, the sense of adventure and exploring in it, I think, is very important. And it's not only because of that, it's because of the message in it. Now, when I used to watch Doctor Who as a kid, and then I kind of stopped watching it, and as I was like a couple years ago, I've explained this a bit on my channel before, a couple years ago I was kind of depressed and not myself, and when I was coming out of that, I got back into Doctor Who, and the message in the show, actually, it sounds bizarre, but it actually helped me so much. Like, seeing the Doctor kind of go through the same things I went through, like, he had to deal with kind of being a bad well, not like he wasn't a bad person, but he had to do some things which he didn't want to do, but he had no choice to do, and having to go through like all the loss that he's been through, like losing all the companions, and having to cope with that and just learn to become carefree and kinder. And that's something that resonated with me a lot, because that's something I went through as well. Before I went through all that, I was a very different person to who I was now. As a kid, as a kid, I was like what most kids are like, but as I went into high school, I really didn't like it, and I'd lost contact with my friends, so it was a bit like relating to that, is how he loses his friends. I also lost my friends, and specifically, if you've watched some of my videos or my shorts, you'll know the 11th Doctor is my favourite, because I relate to him a lot. Not just because of the personality. He's very similar to me. I don't know if I picked up some of his traits as a kid or something and kind of absorbed them into my own personality, if that's possible. Maybe because sometimes when I watch him, it reminds me of myself so much. It's kind of spooky to me. But in his, basically, let me try and explain this without rambling. In his last series, he'd made these really good friends that he lost, and then it kind of sent him into a depression and a really dark time. And then he met a new friend that like brought him out of it and helped him feel like himself again, become carefree and happy again. And that's sort of what I went through, but not just with one friend, obviously with multiple, like especially my old best friend who I recontacted, and that really helped me, and the lovely people I met online, that really helped me, and meeting Emily from the youth club, that really helped me. And yeah, well, that's why I relate to Doctor Who so much, and also just generally his personality of wanting to like explore things and help people. I try to be a lot as well, like his message of, you know, always trying to be nice and kind and caring and forgiving and helping people. That's something I try to do in my life. Like, to me, that is one of the most important of my personality traits, or at least I think it's one of the most important things to try and be in life. Like, just trying to be a good person. Like, even if there are some people that won't change and that you can't help, and you might not always, you know, be able to save everyone or save every situation, but as long as you try and help some people, that's what counts in the end. And yeah, that's the main reason why that show will always be important to me. And also, right, this is probably going to be a long video now, which I didn't want it to be, but oh well. Like, he, in his life, he went through so many things, and he went through so much trauma, and he didn't really give himself time to work through it. He just kept moving and going on and trying to move on and on to new things and meeting new people and just going on to new adventures. And by the time he got to his 14th incarnation, he was like worn out, and he had to stop what he was doing and just like settle down and like go, just, you know, stop, settle down, try and live a normal life and try and work through his trauma. And so when, after all that, when he became 15, still a few theories on that, but the consensus is when he became 15, after that, that's why 15 is so carefree and happy and can move on from stuff quickly, because he spent some time like fixing himself and healing himself. And that's something I relate to a lot as well, because I feel like that's slightly where I am in my life. Like, well, maybe kind of in between that and after it, because, you know, I've spoke a bit on my channel about all the stuff I went through, and I've sorted most of that out now, so I'm all woogie woo now. But yeah, on a personal level, that not just the show, but the character, the Doctor, I relate to him so much. And even if, you know, the show sometimes, even if right now it's not like the best it's ever been and stuff, and there's some controversial stuff about it and whatever, it doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is the character, because I think it's a really good and important message, and it's helped me a lot. And especially the 11th Doctor, like, whenever I'm feeling down or anything, I go and watch an episode of his. It kind of brings me back to life, because it kind of reminds me who I am through him, like showing me who I am by showing me who I'm like, if you get what I mean. And that really helps me. And especially his speech when he's about to change, of, you know, always like being different people all through our lives. Like, that times change, and so must we. That's something that I try to carry through my life, and just the general message of, you know, being kind, being caring, trying to help where you can, but also not letting those bad things in the world get to you, still being carefree and happy, and just taking life as an adventure. That's something I just really relate to, that character and that show as a whole, and yeah, that's why that will always, no matter what happens with the show, that will always be important to me, and it's something I'll probably always be watching just to, you know, remind me. But yeah, that was Doctor Who. Now on to number 2, which would be The Owl House. Now, I know to some people that might not seem like a very in-depth show, but when you really watch it, there is like kind of a story, like a message to it, and the main character, Luce, they're neurodivergent, which I am, in case you didn't know. I have autism, ASD, like I forget the name, high function. I don't know the technical terms, but I notice, looking at that character, I'm very similar to them. And then in the show, they're open about being a weirdo, and so am I in real life. Like, and their quote about us weirdos have to stick together, that's something I use in my real life. Like, I literally, have you seen on my videos, I literally have a necklace with my friend which says weirdo number 1 and weirdo number 2, so I relate to them a lot. And sort of their story of at home in their human realm, that they're not really understood and they're not really accepted, even though they're super creative and intelligent and talented, but to their peers they seem a bit weird and strange, and that they're not really accepted, so they feel a bit lonely, and they kind of feel more comfortable in a fantasy world, which is something I kind of did. Well, I've always, you know, liked fantasy stuff and made characters and stuff, but at one point, like a few years ago, I was a bit like that. But they kind of, Luce, who's the character I'm talking about, well, the whole show, that's basically the character that I'm relating to the most. That's why it's important to me, but I wanted to say the whole show as well. I'll explain that in a minute, but mostly this character. This video is kind of like specific characters, but I'll just put as the whole show. But I'll explain why, but I'm rambling now. But yeah, that Luce's kind of journey of wanting to escape reality and then finding a place where she's comfortable about being herself, and then building up the confidence with the friend she's made to go back into reality, until by the end, after she's defeated the villain and defeated the problems, overcome her problems, she's content with being in the reality she's in. And that's the message, is that's kind of all you've got. Like, you have to like kind of become content with the reality you've got, and that's what she learned to do. Like, she met some friends that helped her become herself and helped her become confident, and at first she didn't really like living in the human realm. Like, she'd literally rather have lived in another dimension than the human realm. And well, personally, I don't know if that realm exists, but the message is learning to become content with what you've got, because even though that mystical other place, it might seem really cool and like you live there, but even so, there's like, you're still a human being, you've still got a human life, and there's still loads of good things here, like your family, your friends, the things you love. Like, sometimes you get a bit lost over things that don't exist, that you kind of forget the good things you already have. Like this, even if those things are real, this is still the reality you've got, this is still the life you've got, so make the most of it instead of kind of dwelling on fantasy, even though that can be, obviously that can be cool and interesting, and that's one of my interests as well, but not just finding your happiness through fantasy things, learning to become content and happy with your real life, because those circumstances, no matter, even if they're bad, there's still always good things in them, and it's the only thing you got. So learn to work with it and become happy in it, and you can always make a situation better, and there'll always be your people like you that'll help you and support you, like Luce found. And I relate to that, because that's basically almost exactly, apart from the whole going to another dimension, that's basically what happened to me. I've never really, I've never been a normal person whatsoever. I've always felt like a bit of an outsider to society almost. Like, I didn't really make any proper friends because I couldn't really relate to people, but then eventually, I found my people, I found my friends, and they helped me become confident and feel like I can be myself all the time. So now, instead of focusing on fantasy things, I focus more on my real life, and I am content and happy with my real life now, and I enjoy my real life, not just those fantasy things are cool, but I enjoy, the most funnest thing I enjoy now are the things in real life, like being with my friends, having a good time, doing what I love to do, just, kind of living life, if you get what I mean. That's kind of the only thing that'll matter. Like, when you look back, you're not gonna see the things that weren't real, you're gonna see the things that were real. Did I say that right? I don't know, but if you get what I mean. So like, spend time in the real world. It's okay to be in fantasy sometimes, and of course, but make sure to spend time in the real world, because that's all there is in the end. That's all you got. Sorry if I repeated some. I feel like I've basically been repeating some sentences like over and over, but that's the general message of the Owl House, I think, which, even if you don't fit in, there will always be your people out there that will help you and support you and make you feel happy and content with your life. So then you can move on from that and be yourself and be happy all the time. And you won't really even, although you might still be interested in it, you don't really need that fantasy world anymore, because you'll be enjoying your life so much that it'll be the opposite of what Luce wanted, where she wanted to go to another realm. If you were asked, would you want to go to another realm and leave your whole family and friends and everything you love behind, you'll be like, no. By the end, at the start, you might want that escape, but once you've been through, once you've found basically once you've found your people and been through all that, by the end, you'll, believe me, by the end, your life is the life you want to live. And that's basically, I think that's kind of, there's other things like in the Owl House, like being yourself, being content with being yourself, and that's important as well, but the main message of it, I think, is being content with your real life. And you don't need to look out there, you don't need to look beyond, because everything you need and everything you want is already here in your real life, and you just need to kind of make it, which you can do. But yeah, that was the Owl House. And number one, well, not kind of number one, but well, yeah, number one. The next one would be Gravity Falls. Now, Gravity Falls, it's been my favourite show for years, and it'll probably always be my favourite show, because, I mean, if you've watched it, you'll know why. It's just brilliant. Like, I'll get onto the first point and then the characters. The first point is like the sense of mystery and the sense of wonder, like, in the world, like making you think, like, there's so much more to the world, there's so much more to reality than what you might think, and that might be true, but kind of like the Owl House, in the end, the things that matter the most is still your friends, your family, the people you love. Like, basically in the show, Dipper and Mabel, they're the characters, which if you watched it, you know. Like, Dipper kind of becomes enamored with the mysteries in Gravity Falls, and they're all cool, and so does Mabel, but by the end, he wants to stay in Gravity Falls because he's so interested by all the paranormal stuff and all the supernatural stuff. And they're in the show, they're 12, about to become teenagers, and so it's basically their like last hurrah as kids. And Mabel she's kind of like scared of moving on and scared of becoming an adult, and she needs her brother with him, but he wants to kind of stay in Gravity Falls where all the mystery and all the cool stuff is. But by the end, he realizes, as interesting and as cool as that may be, he can't just leave his sister. Like, the most important thing to him is his sister, and being there for her, even if it's not doing what he wants to do, he will still do it for her, because that's what's important in the end. Like, once again, when you look back on your life, believe me, that's the only thing that'll be important, is like how you made other people feel. And they still, what after Gravity Falls, I'm sure they'll still be interested in like all the supernatural stuff and paranormal stuff and weirdness in the world, but they'd wanna face it together, because they've been together all that time and they need to face things together. Like, they couldn't imagine being separate by the end, even though sometimes they don't really get along that well. In the end, they realise they need each other. And that's kind of, I think, the message of that, not just like to try and keep the sense of wonder and adventure and exploration as a kid, but also realizing what the most important things are, like your friends and family, and making sure you're there for them, and not letting them things get in the way of each other, if you know what I mean. Like, I think you know what I mean, but that's why I love Gravity Falls so much, because obviously I love paranormal and supernatural stuff and all the weirdness and all that. Like, I love that stuff. Like, it brings me to life. Like, when I watch the end of Gravity Falls again, it makes me cry, but it also makes me want to like go out and explore the world and find all the strange stuff in the world. But you also need to remember what's the most important things to you, and you need to like put what's the most important things in your life, put them first, and there's no reason why you can't have the other things as well, but just don't neglect one for the other, and you can have them both. You can have everything you want in life, basically. And yeah, that, I think that's kind of the general message of that, and that's why I relate to that so much. But also onto the characters, like Dipper and Mabel, I relate to them a lot because, well, probably more Mabel, because there's a part of me that was a bit like her. Like, becoming an adult, I kind of dreaded it, and I didn't want to move on because of all the responsibilities and stuff of being an adult. But being an adult doesn't mean that you have to lose all the good things that you had as a child, like the sense of wonder and adventure and innocence. You don't have, just because you're becoming an adult, you don't have to lose that. And watching that show kind of helped me realize that. And also Dipper as well, like his sense of, I guess I'm very slightly like a mix of Dipper and Mabel, where I have Mabel's like silly personality and craziness, but also Dipper's like logical side of trying to figure everything out. Oh, sorry for the barks. But yeah, I'm big into like mysteries and solving things and fairies and things like that, so that's why I relate to them too the most, and I guess I'm kind of like a mix of them. By the way, sorry if my voice has gone quiet, my brother's here and I just, don't want to disturb him. But yeah, and also there's a parallel between Dipper and Mabel and their uncles Stanley and Stanford, where if they keep growing apart, that's kind of what they'll be like in the future. And there's kind of a fear of growing apart, and kind of like fear of abandonment, which I also kind of been through, because after losing my first friends, I was a bit, I was worried that people would leave me or want to stop being friends with me, and if I did one little thing wrong, then oh god, the world's ended. But it's, that's obviously not true. And another message in that is that it's not inevitable that people will split apart. Like, if you have a connection that means a lot to you, obviously both of the people they're gonna keep it going, but there's no reason why that anything could happen to it. But what makes people split apart is that their kind of selfishness, you could say, or like not caring for the other person. Like, Dipper was going to be selfish and stay in Gravity Falls and not really care about Mabel, and if he did that, then I think they would have split apart. But he's seen how how upset she was and how much she needs him. And so even if he wanted to stay, he decided to go back with his sister and, live a normal life with her and grow up together and go through all the things you go through together. So yeah, that, and probably later down the line anyway, he probably ended up going back to, the mysteries and stuff, maybe even together. So if there's a message of never, don't be selfish, because if you actually be kind instead, the result will be better, because you will still probably most likely get what you want in the end anyway, but you will still have the connection. And that's kind of a message there also. But another character I relate to now, okay, this is gonna sound a bit iffy, but the villain, Bill Cipher, don't worry, not in the psychotic way, but he was kind of driven insane. I believe the story with him is he was kind of driven insane by the limits of the dimension he came from Flatland, which was really limited, and the people were very, it's just limited and they were very close-minded and not open to new concepts. And he kind of thought he was better than them. Instead of working with them, he thought he was better than them and decided to try and liberate his dimension, but ended up destroying him, which kind of drove him insane. And I used to be a bit, not like that obviously, but a bit sick and tired of how close-minded people think and how limited people think. Some people are very NPCs, and when I try to show them how much more to the world there is, they just kind of shut me off, and because they want to stay in their life, their human life. They don't want there to be anything beyond, if you get what I mean. And that kind of annoyed me, but if you know what I even mean. But and also his mentality of he's in so much mental pain that even pain itself is hilarious to him, because nothing could compare to the mental pain he's going through, because he had to cope with destroying his own dimension, which drove him insane. And now he has kind of no motivation to do anything. He's kind of that was all he had there. He had his friends and family there, and he destroyed it all because he was selfish and he thought he was better. And instead of trying to teach them, work with them and learn with them, he became arrogant and he ended up destroying it all. So he got driven insane, and now he has no purpose in his life, and he has so much guilt, and he kind of tries, in a bizarre way, he tries to free people from that, because he wants to create a weird world with no rules and no anything and no time. So there's no limitations, and if there's no time, there's no rush to do anything, there's no motivation to do anything, there's no purpose to anything. And he kind of needed not to have a purpose, because he destroyed his purpose. And the main thing of that is not wanting things to change, wanting things to be the same all the time, and that just can't happen. No matter how much you want it to, change is the only constant. And I used to be a bit like that, scared of change, not wanting things to change. But now I love change, I embrace change. The Doctor Who quote at the beginning, we all change. We're all different people all through our lives, and that's okay. That's good. You got to keep on moving as long as you remember all the different people who you used to be. And you know, when you look back, you'll see how far you've came and how much you've changed, and you'll imagine what would your life be like now if you never changed, if you never made that effort to change. It would probably be maybe not bad, but probably way less exciting and a lot more boring and stagnant, and nobody wants a life like that. So always change, always try to be, not saying like, but always try to like do your best and be better. Like, I'm not saying, like, whoever's watching, not saying like you're a bad person or whatever. I'm sure you're probably a wonderful person, but even still, always trying to change and be better, be a better person and try new things. And basically they're kind of the entire messages of the 3 shows is like being content with who you are, being content, and being content with the world you're in, and being content with it changing. And that's basically your entire life, more or less. So basically them 3 shows combined to me kind of helped me through my entire life, and that's why they mean so much to me and will always mean so much to me, and that's why I'll probably always keep going back to them and be watching them my whole entire life. So yeah, they're the 3 shows that mean a lot to me: Doctor Who, The Owl House, Gravity Falls, and Why. And I apologise, I'm a rambly wambly. I'm sorry for the length of this, but yeah, I just felt like making that video, and it actually feels good to like say that and get that out there, and I think that was a good idea. Thank you, brain. But yeah, that's that video. Let me know if you get this far. Feel no need to, obviously. Probably be like a 40-minute long video, and I understand if you don't want to watch all of that. I wouldn't mind, just for fun anyway in the end. But anyway, if you do get to the end, let me know what shows mean the most to you and why. But yeah, stay kind, curious, weird and silly, and have a wonderful day. Bye.